and that was devastating for me. I kind of felt betrayed by God because I had been really trying to grow my relationship with him, and to me it felt like I had been abandoned. But sometimes all you can really say is, Jesus, help.
Welcome back to Mac Stories. I'm your host, Bridget Richardson, for this series on prayer. Last time we heard from Chris, who shared about how prayer got him through his time as a United States Navy veteran in an unimaginable personal experience. Next, we meet Kamryn. She's a University of St. Thomas Houston student athlete who left home at the age of 19 to become a professional ballerina. Not only is that hardcore, but it's so cool to see someone so driven. But then adversity hit, and Kamryn felt betrayed by God. So let's hear what she had to say.
Let's see. Around the time I was about 19 years old, I was really striving to be a professional ballerina. I moved to Fort Worth away from my family, and I was dancing as a trainee there with a ballet company. And I wouldn't say my prayer life was the best, but I still went to church, and I read the Bible, and I was really trying to grow deeper with God. I feel like whenever you move away from home, that's really a test of faith, whether or not you're gonna stick with your faith and keep going, or if you're gonna fall off. And so I kind of made a decision to myself. I wanted to get closer to God. And I knew that if I did want to get closer to him, prayer was gonna be one of the number one things that I needed to do. So I began to pray more in the morning. It kind of just started out as just a, Jesus, please help me see you today and love other people and just see where you're taking me. And then it grew deeper as time went on. Around January 2021 is whenever I tore my ACL for the first time, and that was devastating for me. I kind of felt betrayed by God because I had been really trying to grow my relationship with him, and to me it felt like I had been abandoned. I never quit praying. I kept trying to, just hear him and see where he was leading me. But at that time, it was pretty difficult to even know that he was there. I received my surgery, and then I was trying to recover from this surgery. So doing a lot of physical therapy and just lots of hours in the gym trying to strengthen my leg back. I was really lost. I didn't know where I was headed. I couldn't go back to my professional dance career because I was really badly injured, and it was going to take about a year to get back from. And so I started this prayer routine where I would wake up in the morning, and it was dark outside, really quiet in my house, and I would just sit in silence. So I would sit in silence, and I would just kind of pray over my day, pray over my family. I would write down prayers. I think it's helpful to do that as well. And I really just began to ask God, where are you leading me? What are we doing? Where is this headed? And over time, I slowly began to feel closer to him again, and I began trusting him again. It wasn't until I prayed and asked him for a word to kind of take me through my year that I could rely on and just know that he had given me this word and he was with me. And the word that I had received from him was bold.
I think what Kamryn is unearthing is it okay to be let down by God? And I think we need to sit with that. Is it okay? And maybe there's a better question there, rather than is it okay to be let down by God? When we feel let down by God, how do we respond? For Kamryn, she responded with silence. Her prayer was silence. And then she asked God, what are we doing? I love that question. It almost makes me laugh because it's so real. Her trust is weakened and her confidence is totally depleted. And still she cries out to God, what are we doing? But really, through the yearning and waiting, God was calling her to a deepening of trust and confidence. And he spoke. God spoke a word.
So knowing that this was my word for the year, I felt as though God was trying to tell me to be bold in prayer, be bold with where I was headed, and bold with the decisions I made from there on out. So as I'm driving down the highway one day, I promise I was safe, don't worry. I'm looking at these billboards that I'm passing, and I see the word bold on this billboard, and I'm like, oh my goodness, there's Jesus. Like, Jesus is with me, right? And so it took me about 10 more times to pass this billboard, and lots of prayer and just time reflecting over it. And I was in prayer one morning, and I thought of that billboard, and I remembered how it said, "Be your bold self" on it. And I remembered how God had wanted me to pray boldly and just be bold. And in that moment, I felt as though God was telling me, go to St. Thomas, apply for St. Thomas, and go and see what I have in store for you there. I immediately bursted into tears. I was shocked because I had never had an experience like that before, where I felt as though God was literally opening a door for me. I applied for St. Thomas, and I'm not gonna lie, I still had some doubts because I wasn't sure if I was even gonna get accepted. My freshman class was going to be starting their year in about 4 days. So it was a very quick turnaround to come to this school. But I just kept remembering that word bold and just the bold prayers that God had me pray. And I really thank him so much for that opportunity because, I mean, look at me now. I'm able to tell my story to all of you.
Bold. I work at UST. I've seen this marketing campaign a million times. And if you ever think the work you are doing doesn't matter, you have no idea how God is putting it into motion for someone else's story. Case in point, Kamryn. She saw the word bold from a really well put together, well executed marketing campaign from a university, and she saw it and thought that was her word, knew that was her word from God. Kamryn cried out in boldness, literally the boldness, the audacity she had to say, God, what are we doing? Led her to the most profound moment of Jesus's presence in her life up to that point. That's amazing. While bold was her word, perhaps God was showing her mercy through her own boldness, for her openness to what God had planned for her, even when everything had changed. It really is quite staggering how the simplest moments in life can become the most profound moments that make our lives take a complete 180. And Kamryn was persistent. She kept on praying, even in her doubt.
I think what kept me praying the whole time was just knowing that there was still hope. No matter how much I wanted to believe that God had betrayed me and left me in the dust, deep down, I truly still believed that he had a plan for me. I think it's really important to sometimes reflect back on past experiences and see where God has led you and where he has helped you in your life, to know that he truly is always there for you. So I think just looking back on certain experiences where he had helped me through hard times helped me to push through whenever I didn't feel like praying. And I also want to add too that my prayers during that time did not look the same as they had before. So sometimes in our prayer life, prayers can feel really strong and you feel really close to God, but sometimes all you can really say is, Jesus, help. And I think that's still a very valid prayer. Even though it might not feel very meaningful to him, he still hears you.
Kamryn held on to her hope. She was steadfast in prayer. She knew her Creator had showed up for her before, and she just showed fidelity to him. Even in prayer, she was pretty hardcore and driven. The thing that is really beautiful to me is that God knows our hearts. He knew her heart. He knows her heart. And he knows when we're ready for each chapter of our lives. And while it didn't feel like it would be meaningful to God, I think if someone is in complete desperation and all they can do is cry out, Jesus, help, that is the absolute most beautiful thing that Christ could hear. I truly believe that. No frills, just Jesus, help. And like we saw in Chris's story, it takes a really strong person to simply say, Jesus, help. And just to put a bow on the story, Kamryn became a professional dancer. She was a Rockette, like New York City Rockettes, and she became a part of the dance team of the Houston Rockets. She rocks. My challenge to you is to try it. Think of something that's really weighing you down and sit with it in silence. And whatever amount of time that silence ends up being, that's designated for that moment, that contemplation, at the end, and really say it. Just cry out, Jesus, help. That's it for now. In our next story, we meet a priest, and he tells us what it feels like to be totally cut off from the world, and all you have left is yourself and your prayer. So make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell so that you're notified of our latest episodes. I'm Bridget Richardson. You're watching Mac Stories. Bye.